groovy people, welcome to Blue Dragon Art, a channel where I focus on art-related topics. Last week I was talking about my top 5 favorite magical girl anime and manga, and this week I wanted to talk about some of my favorite magical girl webcomics that are independent, as opposed to the commercial ones that, are well known by a lot of people, or maybe not so well known by a lot of people. But at any rate, I wanted to give a shout out to some of my indie comicers. So that's what we're doing this week. This is a topic that interests me because I also work on a free, not safe for work webcomic that is magical girl themed as well as post-apocalyptic fantasy. Links for that are down in the description. But I'm not going to be talking about my comic this week. I'm going to be talking about other people's stuff. So let's go ahead and jump into my personal top 5 independent webcomics that are magical girl themed. Coming in at number 5 is one that I've been reading for couple years. It's Arindia No Den Setsu. It's an isekai fantasy, magical girl fantasy, and I'm just going to go ahead and read the details before showing a little bit of the artwork. 2 worlds coexist next to each other. One of them, Arindia, is inhabited by magical creatures. The other one, Earth, is filled with non-magical beings except for a few humans who are able to use magic and therefore allowed to travel into the magical world. However, Arindia is dying. The magic-wielding humans might be Arindia's salvation or a curse. It solely depends on their choices and how much they are willing to sacrifice for the magical world. This is a really interesting comic. There is a lot of world building. You see a little bit of the magical girls who are from our Earth. We see a little bit of what their life and experiences are like with their families on Earth. But it's predominantly, at least at this point, and it's several chapters in now. I think it's, I'm on chapter 14. I think that's how far she has written her story. Yeah, she's on chapter 14. And I just think this is a very rich world. In between episodes, there's more world building, just with like some information about the different races and species that live in this world, and it's very much an homage to fantasy just as much as it is magical girls. It's got a huge cast of people, but all the girls are unique, and there's a lot of mystery. There's some villains where I still don't know exactly what's going on and what the villain's main goal is. Some of them seem like they could possibly not be completely evil, and it's very interesting. There's also a little smattering of romance, but overall, I just find this to be a very interesting comic. I really enjoy it, and having watched the art progress over the years, it's a really interesting comic that I really enjoy, and I try to keep up. Now that I finally caught up with it, there's like 517 episodes or something like that. And I finally caught up, so I'm happy to stay caught up, and I check it out, read it in a couple, I might read it in like 4 or 5 page chunks at a time. I definitely recommend it. Coming in at number 4 is Sleepless Domain. This one is actually pretty popular, it's pretty well known. Most of the ones that are on this list, to my understanding, are relatively small indie, but this one has gotten quite a few readers and popularity. I'm personally only on chapter 3, but I have really been enjoying it, and I have high hopes for it. I will be continuing to read the comic, obviously, but let's go ahead and start out with what Sleepless Domain is about. Sleepless Domain is a comic about an isolated city in the middle of a dangerous world filled with monsters. During the day, the city is perfectly safe. At night, however, the populace locks themselves inside as the city streets fill with monsters. The only ones who can combat these creatures are very special girls with the power to transform into magical girls. So this one is a little darker. It's very well done. It's got a lot of mystery and intrigue, but it starts out pretty dark. So I don't know. Anything that I suggest, just be forewarned, there may be some trigger warnings on them. And I just kind of want to, I guess I'll just kind of say that up front, but I really like the art in this, both when it starts with a specific artist and then it switches over to the same person who writes the story, becomes the artist for a while. And it's a very interesting story so far. I want to read more. I really like Undyne. I think she's probably my favorite character so far, although I am starting to like Kokoro. I guess Heartful Punch, I think, is her alchemical name. So yeah, it's just very well done, and it's got an interesting premise, and I have no idea where it's gonna go from here. So yeah, I definitely recommend Sleepless Domain. Coming in at number 3, oh man, I've talked about this comic before, but it's Witches of the Evening. I absolutely love the colors and the artwork. Let me go ahead and jump right into reading the synopsis. During the witching hour, creatures from another world enter into our own. Only witches can stop these creatures during this time, before they can do harm or create chaos in the world. Things, however, change when the warlocks start causing trouble. The witches soon find there is an arcane magic in their world, far beyond what they had ever imagined. When Roxanne becomes determined to uncover this arcane magic, the foundations of her world begin to change. Now, this comic, I want to give a fair warning, it's on hiatus right now, but the author has mentioned earlier in the year that she does intend to continue the story. There's 4 chapters right now, and even if she's unable to continue it, which I don't think that's the case, I think she's just trying to get to a point where she can start working again. I enjoy it. I think it's worth the read. I like the artwork, I like the characterization. The characters are really fun, and there's a lot of battles. The battles are really good, the outfits are good. I've been really enjoying the story, and I want to know more. Right now, the chapter that she's working on, or that she had been working on, is the witch trials, and it's been pretty interesting with like different obstacles, magical obstacles that the witches have to overcome, fights and things of that nature. So it's kind of interesting, and of course there's definitely an anime influence or vibe, but with all the colors and stuff and the special effects, I really enjoy this comic. It's one of my favorites. Number 2 on my list is Amara. This comic is pretty new on my radar. I just started reading it this year, and it just started uploading June of 2022. The synopsis is pretty simple. A girl who is afraid of the sea gets mermaid abilities. Now, the art in this one is just... This is probably... Well, that and the conversations and the way they talk, everything to do with this comic, the moment I saw it and started reading it, I was like, yep, I'm gonna like this comic. It feels very reminiscent, like the style itself, of kind of like, I want to say 70s looking shoujo manga, is how it feels to me. It's so well done. It's very, in my opinion, professional level artwork. Some of the framing, the way that it is a scroll, but I think that also it's set up so that it could be printed. If this gets printed, I will buy a copy of it once they get like the first volume complete, because it's just so well done. Like this part of the page right here, where it's Amara and then like the wave with this man that she's crushing on. This is just so well done. It's just so well done. And I say the man that she's crushing on, but like Hudson is his name, and he's her crush and someone that she's known for years. But yeah, just the framing and the art and just how well thought out the panels are. It just it's immediately just drew me in. I like water. Water is probably my favorite element. You know, it might be an air element as an Aquarius, but I always consider it more a water sign. I really don't believe in astrology at all, but for funsies, I really feel like Aquarius should be a water sign. And water has always been my personal favorite element. But yeah, this is a really, really well done comic so far, and I can't wait to see what happens. Alright, before we find out my number 1 magical girl indie webcomic, I want to give a couple honorable mentions, comics that I also like to read and enjoy. The first honorable mention is This Mortal Coil, or Magical Girl Kamiko. The synopsis for this is, her mother called her Natsumi, but the gods call her Kamiko, because she's become one of them. In their eyes, she is a youthful, modern, reckless goddess who does what she wants and takes what she wants. These are her adventures in the mortal and eternal realms filled with friends, family, monsters, and the endless infinite of time and space. So, I'm not caught up with this yet. There's an official website, but I read it over on Comic Fury. I read all of these on different platforms. One I read, like Sleepless Domain, I read on their own website, their official website. Some of them I read on Tapas, some of them I read on Webtoons, and some of them I read on Comic Fury. But this one is hosted on Comic Fury, as well as having a ton of additional stuff on their main website. And it's just a fun comic. Every page is different. There's a lot of experimenting stylistically with like the pages and the paneling and the colors. It's all over the place, but I love that about it. And it's funny. Its genres tags are comedy, fantasy, and supernatural. And it really is a very enjoyable comic so far. I'm maybe 4 chapters into it right now, and I've been really enjoying it. Honorable mention number 2, I've got 2 doujinshi on here, and they are Sailor Moon related. I don't normally really read a lot of fan fiction, especially anymore. I used to read fan fiction for different stuff, but anymore I don't really do so much, just because it doesn't usually interest me, I guess. But these 2 comics, yes, I read and enjoy. One of them is still ongoing. It's Bishoujo Senshi Sailor Earth. And I have to laugh because I had also done fan art where I'd created this character that was going to be Sailor Earth. It's awful. If I can find it, I'll throw a picture of it up on the screen. But this one actually is a little different because it's essentially based on the anime version of Sailor Moon, not just the manga, but specifically the anime, where Naru gets like a way bigger role than even in the anime. But let's go ahead and read the synopsis here. Naru Osaka has always been an average girl, but one day a cat approaches her and gives her a special transformation wand. With it, she becomes the beautiful soldier Sailor Earth. Her mission is to find and defeat the monsters of an enemy long thought dead, but juggling the life of a normal girl and a superhero leaves plenty of room for things to get complicated. So yeah, this is just a fun comic that I read, and it's what it says on the tin. It's a Sailor Moon fan fiction. And that's all I got to say about that. My last honorable mention is actually a completed doujinshi, which I swear I'm going to buy a hard copy of this, but it's called Heavy Metal Sailor Moon, and it was great. I really enjoy it. I'm actually I'm gonna be buying it, so I'm probably gonna be rereading it. But it's a different take on Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon is a different character. I mean, they're all kind of like reincarnations of the characters that were in the manga and anime, but it's very different. It's very different. So I'll read the synopsis. Plagued by dreams she can barely remember, Suki is an ordinary young woman scraping by in the world. She is unable to shake the feeling that there's something more than just waiting tables and paying bills. Will the falling star help her find her way? This is just, I can't really even begin to explain this comic. You really just have to read it because, yeah, it's fan fiction, but it's just such a completely different take. And I think you should just read it if that's something that interests you. Maybe a little bit of a trigger warning on this one. Obviously very more adult than maybe the original Sailor Moon. But yeah, there's violence and language tag on it. And my number 1 absolute personal favorite magical girl indie webcomic is Saffron Wave. Oh my gosh, this comic is just absolutely gorgeous. I love the characters. And I love that it takes place in Crete, in ancient Crete. Let's go ahead and read the about. The synopsis. Set 3,000 years ago on ancient Crete, history and mythology combine in this tale of the world's first magical girl. Nephele lives a life of uneventful solitude until her world is completely upended by strange monsters from the sea and an even stranger woman giving her magic powers. Nephele takes to the task with her new companions, unaware that she's being caught up in a personal conflict between the gods that's been dragging on for millennia. Join us as we play in the gap between fact and fantasy. Now, I've heard a lot about this comic from the woman who works on it because she's part of the Radia Magical Girl Collective. So, I mean, in addition to, like, in between chapters, she will talk about, like, her actual studies on this part of the world in this time period. So it's very interesting hearing her talk about it while also having it clearly be a magical girl fantasy. I just really love a lot about this comic. I love the artwork. I like the characters. I know there's going to be a bit of romance in here. Ooh. And it's really well done. To me, it feels like professional level. If you look at the artwork, like the colors, the character design, the paneling, the storytelling, the dialogue, it's all just really well done. And I have been excited because she just started the next chapter. Chapter 4 is the chapter she's on, and I can't wait to read more. It's a really good comic. I really enjoy it. And that's all I've got to say this week. I'm absolutely certain that I've probably missed out on a ton of Magical Girl indie webcomics, so if any of you out there have any that you suggest that I read, please let me know down in the comments. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet this week because last week's video was such a nightmare to get out. I'm sorry it was so late, but I kept having copyright issues. Oh my god, that was so annoying. Anyway, peace and love, fare you well, and keep on trucking. First honorable mention is This Mortal Koi, which is the radical magic. The radical. Oh my god, I gotta pee.